Well, just the king Greetings, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. How are y'all doing this evening? I'm glad to see your beautiful faces, pretty smiles. Thank you for joining us in our meeting tonight. I am Mayor Bridget Cotton, for those of you that don't know. To those of you here in person at the town hall and to those that are online, welcome to Taylortown Council special meeting on tonight. And tonight is August the 11th, 2026, and it is 6:01 p.m. I call the meeting to order at 5:30 for a closed session to review some legal matters with the town attorney, Dominique Kim. Now I seek a motion to return into open session. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Ms. Winder, our new town clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Cotton,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gaddy,
Yes.
Councilwoman Moody,
Yes.
Councilwoman Parker,
Yes.
Councilman Brown.
Yes.
Motion passed. We are now back in the open session. Okay, now for a bit of housekeeping. Silence your phones, please. Either silence or vibrate. And for those that don't know where the restrooms are, they are in the hallway. The women is on the right, the men on the left. Okay? So at this time, I would like to ask you to join me in a moment of silence, please. Thank you. And at this time, we'd like to stand and do our pledge of allegiance to the flag, which is back here. Those of you that can stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. So tonight, everybody, we have a lot of ground to cover. Our format tonight is a bit different from our regular council meetings. There is no public comment time and no department reports tonight. Tonight, our focus is on the town's sewer system, particularly Homestead Village. We have allotted 2 hours for the council to receive information from our attorneys, public works director, and engineer. All of this in time to get folks back on the road to Charlotte, Greensboro, and Raleigh. Councilwoman Moody, she's our finance director, officer, and she's the residence historian. Councilwoman Moody, would you please take a minute to tell those who don't know how we came to be Taylortown, one of the North Carolina's best kept secrets?
Thank you, Mayor Cotton. Thank you. Taylortown is the smallest of Moore County 11 municipalities. We were named in honor of one of the town founders, Nicodemus Taylor, called Demus Taylor. Mr. Taylor, a member of the West African Eagle tribe, was born in 1825, a former slave who, after the Civil War ended in this country in 1865, became a laborer in the turpentine industry, cutting down long-leaf pine trees. He also became one of the first caddies at the newly built Pinehurst Resort. There are residents living here in areas that remember their houses, been moved from the area on what is now Highway 5. It was called Smoke, land that is now the Pinehurst Resort and golf courses, to what has now been courses to what has now become Taylortown. They moved here. We've been here on this land since the late 1800s, when Mr. Taylor was here after slavery was over. We didn't get our charter until 1987, and even then, there were people at the North Carolina General Assembly unashamed to say we didn't need our charter because black people couldn't govern themselves. We celebrated Founders Day in July of this year, and And we honor Reverend Brown, Bishop Larry Brown, and his wife is Mother Elsie Brown. They are the last of the folks that went to Raleigh to fight for us to become a town in 1987. And now here we are fighting to bring development into Taylortown in the right way, and being threatened by Senator McInnes that he would use the General Assembly again against the elected officials of Taylortown unless we give developers of 2 Marriott Hotel projects permit to build in Taylortown before we can give them facts about our sewer system they want to tap into. I'm glad we're here tonight to get the facts, find out the truth, and maybe, just maybe, we can come to understand more about what so many people didn't want us to get the facts about our sewer system and why. We've come a long way from smoke, the old settlement, and being a sanitary district, and now we're the town of Taylortown. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Planning our future. I'd like to give you just a bit more information about how council and staff work together. We have a vision to incorporate our history into plans for our future residential and commercial development. The town council in 2025 put a 6-month moratorium in place to plan for our future of Taylortown. 2 developers wanted to build 2 Marriott hotel projects in Taylortown. We were in the middle of trying to complete our comprehensive plan for our town. We held 3 community input sessions, established our planning commission, our community development advisory board, and our historic preservation commissions. We knew we had issues with our water and our sewer system. And I thank the planning board for being here on tonight, also our community development advisory board, and the historic preservation committee. Thank you all for being here tonight. Since the 1980s, an engineering firm and a local developer had helped the town apply for federal and state grants. There were improvements, but a lot of the promises made to residents did not happen. We got a $2.64 million grant from USDA, and many of our residents expected to get rid of their septic tanks and excess city water, or city sewer, excuse me. We passed a $900,000 bond for which we will be paying to USDA for the next 36 of 40 years. Each payment, or each month, we pay Moore County for sewer treatment more than what we should be paying for the number of residents and businesses that we have on sewer service. Since 2011, we have paid more than $2 million to Moore County to treat water that is groundwater and not sewer. When we hired our public works director, Mr. Darnell Price, and New Eyes began to look at our system, they told us what we would need to do to find out what the problem is and what to do to fix it, and gave us some idea of how much it would cost to fix it. The rumor mill started churning. We were hit with allegations that this historically black and still predominantly black town of Taylortown did not want developers. We were busy trying to right-size our town, trying to protect our current and future users of our water and sewer system when Senator Tom McInnes sent a letter to halt our planning. He enlisted the support of his colleagues in the General Assembly to pass the bill to council the last 2 months of the town's moratorium that we had in place, and to make sure that we could not have the time to plan for our future development. We explained to developers that it was in everyone's best interest for us to plan, to find out as much information as possible about our water and sewer system before any major development was done. PHG, with their plans for a Marriott Residence Inn on land they purchased off of Murdochsville Road, sued us demanding that we issue a building permit. The town council held a quasi-judicial hearing in August 2025. The town council granted a conditional permit to both developers based on the sewer. We have learned a lot about our water sewer system thanks to the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, or the NCDEQ. July 17, 2026, I received a letter from Senator Tom McInnes proposing that Taylortown immediately issue the building permits to PHG for their Marriott Resident EM project in Olmsted Village and to the Summit Group for their Marriott Resort in Olmsted Village. Both projects would need to tap into the sewer system in the Olmsted Shopping Center. He accused Taylortown of having done nothing. He concluded his proposal with a threat that if we didn't respond to him within 14 days, he would pursue his options through the General Assembly, which is overreaching. The rumor mill started to churn again, and we were told about his plans to DNX Olmsted Village and the Pinecroft Shopping Center into Moore County and Pinehurst for these developers. We don't take lightly the threats. The role he played in the de-annexation of the 1,000 acres in Summerfield, North Carolina for developers in 2024 and 2025 tell us that he has no problem taking land from small towns, farmers, and individuals and families. We want development, but we want our infrastructure done right this time. We don't want the problems of the past to haunt our new development. We've received the emails and we heard from the people that did not want us to do this work. We've already done that, they said, except what we have done, and our answer was no, we want the truth. We gave ourselves 18 months from August to August in the PHG order. We are ahead of schedule. We gave our word, and we are keeping our word. Tonight, we are learning together what our engineering firm, public works director, and attorneys know about our sewer system that serves Olmsted Village. Depending on the information that we receive, hopefully from here, we will figure out our next steps together. So at this time, I would like to hear from our attorney, Cam.
All right. I'm Dominic Cam, for everybody who doesn't know, the town attorney here from Taylortown. I'm going to dovetail briefly to some of that and move on to the actual conditions and then set up the line for Dr. Waller to present. So in Taylortown, kind of revamping its infrastructure and making sure that there's proper rules and guidelines. There's a lot of stops along the way in which we have asked for patience so we can make sure we do this right and not just do it. Definitely want to correct the, I guess, notion that Taylortown does not want developers here. We just want to make sure that the foundation and infrastructure is correct. And so during that process, there's friction, there's tension. We have a state legislator weigh in as well. And then that just created, I guess, unnecessary tension, which resulted in a lawsuit, which she spoke of. That lawsuit was settled. We did end that in a quasi-judicial hearing in which the information was presented by PHG. And then the conditions which were put as a condition on the issuance of the permit were, number one, sanitary sewer for the subject property shall meet all local, county, and state regulations, requirements, and inspections. Therefore, if applicant is to utilize the sewer line identified in the hearing or any connections to the same, this line and any connections to it must be brought up to code to meet all local, county, state, and federal regulations, requirements, and standards. The applicant should be responsible for all costs and fees associated with ensuring compliance regarding bringing the aforementioned sewer line and any connections up to code. So basically, we just want to make sure it's up to code. It's not a fancy legal language to say that. Then also that the applicant has a demonstrated plan for sanitary sewer access to the subject property within 18 months. For PhD specifically, the applicant shall conduct historical research on the ownership, use, and potential historic significance of the property and surrounding area and provide all research to the town. And then the last condition was the applicant shall hold 2 job fairs in the town of Taylortown for Moore County residents before soliciting jobs elsewhere. The first job fair should be focused on the necessary trades as well as subcontractors' need for construction of the hotel, and the second job fair should be focused on positions for operational staff. And on that note, PHG has planned a job fair on Monday, August 17th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Homewood Suites in Pinehurst. So look for that in the pilot if you haven't seen that already. But yes, once again, a job fair on Monday, August 17th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Homewood Suites.
And Taylortown, right?
In Taylortown. And so after resolving that lawsuit with PHG, We continue to do the work. The Crichton engineering firm was instrumental in laying out some of the irregularities and the variances between what was allegedly mapped by the county or other engineers and what actually existed. And then Dr. Waller was contacted to come in and to finish that work and to get a deeper dive into the comprehensive issues that were believed to have been there. So there were some differences between what was on the map and what was actually there. And I also forgot to mention Mr. Price, Darnell Price, was instrumental as well. And so in that interim time, we had a developers meeting in April in which we met with both developers that we're currently trying to develop. Told them this was the timeline we'd be meeting in around July or August, that we'd have some stuff from Dr. Waller to present to them. So that way everybody's on the same time, everybody has the same information. We've tried to make sure this is as transparent and fair to both parties and potential developers in the future so that everyone has the same information. So there's not really been any favoritism to either developer. And so now we're at that meeting, but before that meeting, this meeting took place where he could present. There was an additional suit filed by Summit regarding the same thing in the sewer conditions and trying to force the issuance of a permit. So the short version is a lot is revolved around the water and sewer. Now we're going to get the facts from Dr. Waller. This has not been presented before. So I leave the floor to you, Dr. Waller, and as far as anyone who wants to, I guess, take notes, this is a public meeting, so take notes as to what he says, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Attorney Cam. I think, right now we're gonna hear a little something from, our Public Works Director, Darnell Price, with the water and sewer.
Yes, my name is Darnell Price, I'm the Public Works Director. I've been working for the town for 2.5, 3 years. I came to town March 2024, and when I came in, the residential business were complaining about the water and sewage, the problems they had. I worked with the underground industrial and water and sewage for 30 years. Listed in the city and business complaint. We heard about the trenching that was dug, no pipes installed at the time of the contractors who spoke in placing it. Coming off the USDA loan, where new maintenance was installed, we're not having problems with everything on the lift stations, pump houses, and other people who was overseeing the project was not helpful. I called the vendors who helped with the water, the sewage, the wells, and I went to North Carolina Deal to make DEQ, had a meeting with them, and I went to Moore County, had a meeting with those guys, and a conversation with Lake Point McKenzie, and Homestead Village. We ran into some missing permit, as with drawings, pressure testing, would have speeded up the process if I would have had all of that, but we did not have. So we had to go and try to find it, and that's why we hired Mr. Waller to help out with the situation. We're clear, thrown up to find out manholes, installing new flow meters that's off Lincoln Avenue. Redid the wells, hired new people for the water treatment plants. The wells, and we worked with 2 engineers, which is Wright and Mr. Waller. And as the mayor said, the focus tonight is on commercial sewer in the Homestead Village. So I turn it back over to Dr. Waller.
Thank you, Mr. Price. I am Dr. Jahan Waller, owner and principal of J.C. Waller Associates. We're a civil site design and infrastructure engineering company out of Greensboro. Again, we would like to thank the town council for inviting us here to give this presentation on the Homestead Village outfall Again, this is part of a NCDWI grant, for the assessment of the water and sewer in the town. This is a subset of that overall analysis that we would be doing on the entire town's sanitary sewer system. So our initial efforts were to look into Olmsted Village, because of all of the issues that the town was having with that particular system. As a matter of disclosure, I do want to say that I am a board member on the North Carolina State Infrastructure Authority, which is responsible for awarding grants of this nature. I did do a conflict of interest, and the board came back stating that me or my company did not have a conflict of interest in participating in this this award. So just wanted to disclose that, to let you know that we went through all the proper channels. So I'm gonna just take your time a little bit today, maybe about 45 minutes, and show you some interesting stuff about sewer. Here we go. So, slight delay, so. Why this keeps jumping? Are you able to hear me on the Zoom? No. We're having all types of technical difficulties today. Can you hear me on the Zoom? Can you hear me on the Zoom now? Can you hear me on the Zoom now?
Yes.
We have an echo, I guess.
Okay, yes, yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I got a yes. Yeah, we're good.
Okay. I don't know what's going on. Technology is grand when it works.
Just water, you start all over again, sir?
All the way from the beginning?
Yes, all over again.
Cut two.
Nobody missed anything.
I do believe you muted yourself once again.
Yeah.
Let me unmute here. There's some microphone in the room that is unmuted, because I hear.
There you go,
echo.
you're unmuted now.
There's an echo coming from this. Coming from that computer.
Let me get quiet.
My screen is worse.
Did your stream improve? It's still slow, but it's okay. I thought it might be the door closing and blocking the Wi-Fi.
That top corner, can you hit that, minimize that?
Yeah, you can first.
And just for you all to know, this is being recorded live on Zoom and YouTube.
Whose screen is that? 'Cause I don't think that's my screen.
It's this one.
I need control over here.
I can click for you.
if you can move it, because I can't.
That's what I'm trying to do.
We apologize for the technical difficulties.
He's already the host.
He's the one that's been chairing.
Okay.
We just need to.
Make it screen bigger.
mute.
Legal tips. Go one more. Keep going. Keep going. Almost. Better. Should be the option that gets bigger.
More anticipation. Teamwork is gonna make the dream work. So again, for those who did not hear due to the audio issues, I'm Dr. Jahan Waller with J.C. Waller Associates. We are a civil engineering and surveying firm out of Greensboro. We do infrastructure and site development all across the state. I would like to point out that I am a board member of the North Carolina Water Infrastructure Authority Board, which awards grants like this, and this project is part of a larger project to do an asset inventory and assessment of the town's entire water and sewer system. I did do a conflict of interest request. The board reviewed it and declared that I did not have a conflict of interest, which it then allowed me to work on this particular project, very important project for the town. So kind of to go through a quick presentation outline, we're gonna look at some sanitary sewer basics, because I'm assuming most of the people in the room probably know very little about sanitary sewer. So to give you some basic understanding about some terms that I use throughout this presentation, so that we all have the same basic understanding of what is being discussed and talked about. Then I'll go into the asset inventory, talk about the mapping update that was performed. We'll get into the condition of the system, so that's the condition assessment portion of it. And we'll look at three main points. We'll look at condition assessment, inflow and infiltration assessment, and then the capacity assessment of that individual line. I will then go through a summary of findings, probable repair costs, and then some recommendations for the town to take at a later action. So the first question is probably, what is a asset inventory assessment, or better known as an AIA? So what that involves is the categorization and finding out what you have as far as your assets. So assets are known as, in this particular case, we're talking about sewer. So that would be your manhole structures and your piping. And then to determine what type of condition those assets are in. And the reason why that is important, because from a town municipal standpoint, they want to make sure they provide the best service that they possibly can to their customers or residents. So they need to know what condition those assets are, so that they can and then prioritize what they're gonna be able to fund on a yearly basis for repairs, maintenance, and upkeep. There we go. So then some basic terms that you will hear through the presentation. I will be talking about a manhole. So a manhole structure is a circular concrete item that's below ground, which you're probably familiar with, that you see on the top of the surface is the manhole ring and cover, which is a circular metal object. I think Mr. Price has graciously painted all of them green all around town. So those big, large green dots that you see all across the town with the green poles sticking up the side of them, that is a manhole structure. So everybody's familiar with a manhole structure now. Y'all probably wonder, what are these green dots? So those are those green dots. Then if you take the lid off of that green dot or manhole cover, you have inside of there what we call steps. And the purpose of those steps is so that you can go down and access the manhole to do maintenance. And then I want to back up and say, as a cautionary, you're not supposed to enter a manhole because that's a confined entry space. So that's only for authorized people to go in, or trained and authorized people to go in to do maintenance. Another point that we're going to be talking about through the presentation is the channel. What the channel is the area in which the actual wastewater flow is conveyed through that particular manhole. And manholes are used as what we call junctions to be able to change elevation or direction of piping that comes in or exits that particular manhole. In addition to the channel, we will also talk about the bench. The bench is the area outside of the channel, which is typically sloped, so that wastewater and waste does not collect in that area, and everything always moves towards the channel so that the flow can leave the manhole. Another term is we want to talk about our main piping. So in this case, Olmsted Village has an 8-inch main piping, and then we have, and that is PVC, so that's the green pipe. So we see an example of the green pipe there. So you'll see that in some of the images, and then that image in the middle is actually called a drop. And so what the drop does is when sanitary sewer piping come in at a higher elevation, that vertical pipe conveys that flow down to a lower elevation, and that allows for the flow to remain within that channel and not splash and splatter all within the manhole structure. So it makes that flow follow a uniform channel to get to the main channel within the manhole. Let's see what that is. And then we want to talk about the invert, just in case that term comes up in our presentation. The invert is the bottom of the pipe that comes into the sanitary sewer manhole structure. So that would be this pipe coming in here would have an invert, and that pipe here leaving out would have an invert. Another term we want to talk about briefly is that the town has 2 pump stations, or sanitary sewer lift stations. So we will be looking at, just at a very high level, one of the lift stations during this particular talk. That is the Lincoln Street lift station, which conveys the waste from the Olmsted Village Shopping Center over to Moore County's sanitary sewer system, which ultimately makes it to their treatment plant. The pump station consists of a concrete below ground vault, which we call is a wet well, and you have a duplex system, which means it has 2 pumps. So in that image to your right, you see 2 green objects. Those will be the 2 pumps. So we have 2 pumps, and those pumps are designed to alternate and come on 1 pump at a time to minimize wear and tear on the pump and to provide a backup if one pump was to ever go out. So we'll talk about that a little bit in the presentation. So now on to the asset inventory portion of the AIA. So when we arrived, let's call it April of this year, we were presented some mapping by the town and Mr. Price. And he said his famous line, "This mapping is not right," which is the mapping on your right, well, your left, my right, And so that was the mapping that we were given of the sanitary sewer system. So again, part of the AIA process, we need to first identify what infrastructure you have. You know, what are your assets? So the first mapping exercise, you can see the correct mapping of Olmsted Village, is to go out, and we physically went out and we did a land surveying activity, and we located every manhole and every structure within the Olmsted Village shopping center. So on your left, your right, my left, we have the correct mapping of Olmsted Village. Again, this is why this exercise took so long, because we wanted to get all of the factual information about this particular system. So, let's see, there may be a slight delay. There it is. Bear with me, there appears to be a slight delay. All right, so now let's look at the statistics of the Olmsted Village that we were able to collect during the asset inventory part of our analysis. So we have about 1.5 miles of 8-inch PVC, which is a type of pipe material, collection pipe material in Olmsted Village. The system consists of 33 manholes, and it collects sewer flow from 46 businesses. The age of that pipe is towards the end of this age bracket is about 30 years old. You have some that's 30 years old, and you have more significant portion of that piping that's about 31 to 32 years old. This particular collection system, when I say system, I'm referring to both manholes and piping. So I'm talking about both of them together, which comprises of the sanitary sewer waste collection system. The system was installed by a private developer between 1995 and 1996. Hence why we have the two different categories of age for that particular system. Because I think Olmsted Village developed in several phases, and there's still empty lots to this day, so there's continued development as we see with the two hotel projects. And then all of this stuff goes to the Lincoln Street Pump Station, which was developed by the town around 1995. And then that graphic all the way on my left, your right, shows the percentage of piping. So you do have another pipe material, is DIP, which stands for ductile iron pipe. That's a metal pipe material. We do have a small percentage of that metal pipe material, and that metal pipe material was mainly used at roadway crossings, I think, when we go under Olmsted Boulevard. But everything else outside of that is mostly the PVC. And both of those PVC is a newer pipe technology, meaning it's meant to last 50 plus years. I think there's some estimates that that pipe material may last, 100 years. And then ductile iron pipe has been around forever, and that pipe material can last 100 plus years. Guess it don't want to keep secrets. Keep secrets a little longer. There we go. So now on to the condition assessment. So in order to do that condition assessment, what we do is we establish benchmarks. And what benchmarks is visual benchmarks. And so what we do with those is we can visually as well as empirically come up with a rating system to be able to rate various pieces of the infrastructure system. I do apologize for these technical difficulties. All right, So, preceding this, we're gonna look at some of the conditions of the Olmsted Village, but I want you to have an understanding of what I mean by ratings A, B, C, D, and F. So everybody has been to grade school. Everybody knows what an A means. So an A means what? Doing well, great, great job. B, still doing good. C, I'm doing good, still doing good. D does not stand for doing fine. Not doing so great, not doing so hot. And then F, not doing well at all. I need help. So in this first picture, and this is a manhole condition assessment only, is a manhole which we rate as condition A. I mean, it's doing very good, well, almost a brand new installation, almost no problems. It may have a little bit of problems, but nothing drastic other than, you know, your normal wear and tear that you can expect. Rating B, which is the one in the middle, again, B still means I'm doing good. Good condition rating, and you have some minor wear and tear, so you can have some issues with the channel that I talked about earlier. We have problems with the shelf. We can have problems with waterproofing, steps, etc. But those are typically minor, cosmetic in some nature issues, something that does not necessarily affect the overall level of service of the piece of infrastructure. And then we have rating C, which is fair condition. You start getting major wear and tear. You know, at that point, you probably need to start planning for some type of future repairs or maintenance on the system, or even replacement. And then this one here, rating D, again, is in poor condition. You're starting to have issues where you can no longer meet the anticipated level of service. And what I mean by meet the anticipated level of service is being able to convey the wastewater flows that it was designed to convey, or keep water out, you know, out of the system, like keeping groundwater out of the system, etc. And then there may be other defects that are now starting to show that need to be corrected. So this is definitely a maintenance item that you want to, again, start preparing, and hopefully, you know, within the next couple of years, have some type of repair plan in for that particular infrastructure. And then F, that's not doing well at all. That infrastructure needs to be replaced and needs to be on the plan to be replaced as soon as possible. Again, this picture shows a sanitary sewer manhole. Waste is not being conveyed downstream as it is designed. It is collected in that particular manhole, so that is why that particular manhole is a rating F. All right, now let's look at your infrastructure. There's a terrible lag. There we go. Let's get to your infrastructure. So within Olmsted Village, what we and Mr. Price did was we came up with the numbering system for the manhole. So this is manhole 132, which you can see with the blue dot. It's located in that area of Olmsted Village. It is located in pavement, and that condition rating was A. I mean, it looked pristine, perfect, looked almost brand new, even though it was installed somewhere between 1995 and 1997. So again, not all of the infrastructure in Olmsted Village is doom and gloom. Can't say the same about the vast majority, but we will see that as we progress. And what we've done is we've taken a representative sample, so we're gonna probably look at around 10%, 10 to 12% of the manholes and piping in Olmsted Village through this presentation, just so you can get a sense of the condition of the infrastructure, and we're gonna try to hit all applicable letter grades in this presentation. So this is manhole 135, which is up at the top right-hand corner of the screen. This particular manhole had a rating of B, which means good condition, minor wear and tear. And the deficiencies that we identified with this particular manhole, as you can see, the manhole top was in this picture is partially buried. So we actually uncovered it and moved the mulch away from it. So that top needs to be visible so that Mr. Price can do his maintenance and know that it's there. And then also around the ring and cover is not securely attached to the concrete manhole structure itself. So again, those are minor defects that could be corrected with minimal effort, not a lot of money, but those are defects that, well, if they're corrected, will help extend the life of the infrastructure. Manhole 137 in Olmsted Village. This was a rating B. It's to your right. That particular manhole looked to be in fairly good shape. Again, some of the defects with this particular manhole is, again, it was buried, it was covered with dirt. We've uncovered that during our investigation. So that manhole lid needs to be raised so that it is visible on the ground. Also by doing that, it keeps water infiltration from getting into the manhole through the top. The channel looked fairly good. So that was the, then you can see, I don't know if you can see a little bit in the picture, there's a little bit of sheen on the inside of that structure. So that sheen is indicative of water. So that particular structure has some type of groundwater intrusion that is starting to penetrate the joints of the concrete manhole. So that would need to be repaired. Manhole 117 is on the northern side of the outfall. This one is in poor condition, unable to meet the level of service, and it's for several reasons. Again, on this particular one, we identified that the manhole top is not secure to the concrete cone section, which is an area for water infiltration. And then if you look in the manhole, again, you see that same sheen around the outside edges of it, so we're having a lot of groundwater penetration in this structure. And then the shelf is not properly constructed. It is allowing waste to collect on that shelf. And then there's slight issues with the channel as well. So this manhole would need to, we would need to start looking at replacement of this particular manhole. I would also like to point out with the individual defects, once you get 3 or more defects, it starts becoming more cost effective to replace the manhole than it would be to repair that particular manhole. So you may see some manholes that have 3 defects, you have a rating of an F for replacement, and those defects may not seem that major, but again, in totality, the cost for repairing it almost exceeds the cost for getting a brand new manhole. And you may see that as well with the rating D. If it has 2 or more defects, it gets a rating D, which means it technically cannot handle the expected level of service. Then we have manhole 147, which is to the south. Again, that had a level of service of D. The defects with that, again, we have groundwater infiltration, and then you can see this one, the channel is no longer visible, and this is starting to look a little bit like that F that we saw at the very beginning of the presentation with the waste starting to collect at the bottom of the manhole. So this hasn't gotten as bad as that particular picture, but it's heading in that direction. So we need to take some type of remedial actions. And so, we would need to investigate why that is occurring and then correct that particular issue. Manhole 144, as you can see with the red dot, this is a condition F. So this one is not doing real well. Some of the defects at this particular manhole, in the top was flush or covered up with pine needles, so it's not exposed. So doing maintenance activities on this particular structure is hard because you have to know it's there. And then some of the internal defects is we have a sanitary sewer service lateral here coming in that does not have an inside drop. So that wastewater is allowed to splash all over the manhole and collect on the shelf, which is not good practice. And then again, you see the sheen around the outside of or the inside of the manhole rather, which is again indicative of groundwater penetration at the joints of the particular manhole. So this would need some type of waterproofing, drops included in the manhole, and channel work to replace the channel to create a true channel in this particular structure. The manhole 121, that one is in pretty good condition. The only the only defect with this particular one is again groundwater intrusion. Again, we still see that sheen inside of that particular manhole. So we got some groundwater intrusion. The manhole top along the outfall is raised 2 feet, so that one is in great condition, or condition as expected. Let's say it that way. So that concludes the manholes. Now let's look at sanitary sewer piping itself. So sanitary sewer piping is below ground, so we can't visually inspect it without doing a non-invasive investigation technique, which includes doing CCTV, which is closed circuit television, or cameraing the individual lines. So Olmsted Village, we cameraed 100% of the lines in Olmsted Village to determine this, the condition. As what we did with the manholes, these are our benchmarks. So rating A, again, is doing very well. You can see that pipe. You don't see any buildup on the side walls. It looks clear. It appears to be functioning as it was designed and intended. Rating B, again, B, still doing good. You see some slight buildup on the sides of the wall. That's that yellow area, and that buildup is typically grease, or what we call fog, fats, oils, and grease. And then C, you see, is in fair condition. You see even more fog on the side walls. And then rating D, we see several things. We see a lot of fog. We see fog on the top of the roof of the pipe, and then we see it on the sides of the pipe. So the fog on the roof of the pipe is indicative that during some flows, the pipe is flowing full, and so it is basically at capacity at some point in time, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the presentation. Also here, you can see that dark color. That is indicative of settlement at the bottom of the pipe, which we should not be having. So again, because of those two items, the pipe is likely not able to meet the intended level of service to be able to provide for the customers. And then rating F, that particular image there, again, you see, again, fog again around the pipe, and that is not a optical illusion. That pipe is no longer circular. It looks oblong or oval. That should not be the case. This pipe has been crushed somehow. And so that pipe is in poor condition and needs to be replaced. Again, to keep this presentation short, all of these exemplary samples that we used in this particular presentation are of sections of pipe within Olmsted Village. So we have some A's, B's, C's, D's, and F's. And so I think moving forward, we're gonna still try to hit each one of them, but you're gonna see a lot more D's and F's than anything else, because again, I wanted to make sure that you understand and can see the condition of the piping in Olmsted Village, which has a lot more D's and F's than A's and B's. this section of pipe, which is between manhole 138 and 135. CCTV footage, this is looking at the sidewall. We should not be seeing that. That is a breach or break in the pipe. So soil is now allowed to infiltrate into that pipe. So that's a point of some of the sediment and silt we're seeing in the pipe, as well as some of the groundwater infiltration. And this is again at rating F, because again, the pipe is designed to convey wastewater, and that break is preventing that conveyance of wastewater. And that is located, if you look to your right, that red line there represents where that is located within Homestead Village.
Dr. Waller,
Yes,
could you check to see if there's anyone in the waiting room for the Zoom?
I can.
You're the host and you're the only one that can let people in just in case.
Give me just a second. I think everybody's in. Yes, I've been seeing the note. Thank you. You're welcome. All right, I think this is the next one. Sanitary sewer manhole 132 and 131. Again, you can see where it's located in Olmsted Village. Again, this pipe has a lot of silt and sand in it. So this is indicative of a breach somewhere, which is allowing soil to infiltrate the sanitary sewer system. Again, this is supposed to be a closed system. The only way water and waste gets into this piping system is from the pipe or the lateral from the building over to this main line. So again, because this has silt and sediment within this pipe, we give this pipe a very poor condition, because again, with that sediment back up, or build up rather, in the pipe, it takes away the capacity of the overall pipe, so it can't convey the amount of waste that it was originally designed to convey. Another pipe condition at sanitary sewer, between sanitary sewer manhole 146 and 145. This is a rating D, and it's a rating D because here you can see, which is a little hard to see for the untrained eye, there's a gasket and the pipe has started to separate at the joint where the two sections of pipe comes together. So now you can start seeing that gasket, and again, that gasket prevents water infiltration. So right now that joint is small, but if it continues to separate, you will then start seeing soil intrusion as well as more prominent groundwater infiltration. So that is given a rating B. Manhole 121 to 120. So again, this is not optical illusion. You see the pipe, the water flow in this particular pipe is about half to 3/4 full. That should not be the case, because we saw the other pictures, the water level was fairly low at the bottom. So this is telling us that there's a sag in the pipe where water is collecting, getting up to that level. So again, because the pipe is all the time half to 3/4 full, it cannot convey the amount of waste that it was designed to convey. So we gave that a very poor rating. And you see that's along the outfall just north. And then see this picture, you see how low the water level is? It's supposed to be somewhere in that range. This one is C, between manhole 145 and 144. Again, you kind of see a lot of the fog build up on the lines, more of a maintenance activity. That is here. That green is a little hard to see. That's in pretty good condition. And this pipe material is ductile iron, so you see, I think that black pipe material versus the green we've been looking at before. right, so now we're looking at between 120 and 119. We gave that a 4 rating, and we showed the picture what the camera operator saw when they tried to do it. The camera will not fit into pipe. So this is an 8-inch pipe. Because of the fog and likely because of maybe a separation in the joint or an obstruction, they were not able to move any forward, so progress forward anymore, excuse me. So again, the pipe cannot convey the waste as it was initially designed. Its capacity is taken up by some obstruction or something unknown. So we qualify that as an F and say, hey, you need to do some type of rehabilitation or replacement efforts or additional investigative efforts to figure out what that obstruction is that did not allow the camera to continue to progress forward. The delay is allowing y'all to catch y'all breath a little bit. Somebody faints and falls out. Sanitary sewer manhole 147, 146. Again, we have soil within the pipe. That should not be there. This is at a sanitary sewer lateral. And so with sanitary sewer laterals, those are typically the responsibility of building occupants or owners. So that could be an indicator of some type of break or breach in their particular lateral, or that could be indicative of, again, silt and sediment in the main line being pushed to that point. And then because the pipe does not achieve its self-cleansing velocity, all of the deposits are deposited at this location. But because of this, and there's some other pictures of, we saw the manhole. We think it's coming from the line, so that particular line has been given a rating of a F because of this particular condition. So kind of in summary, the condition of the sanitary sewer piping, using A, B, C, D, F, you see you have, that much in F condition. You have a good portion that's in the green, which is a good condition. And then you have some small fraction that's within D. So we'll talk about costs and repair costs a little bit later in the presentation, but you may want to focus your efforts on the red and yellow slices versus the green slices, even though they do have some minor defects that will need to be repaired. But the overall grade for the piping portion of the collection system is a grade D. When we look at the manholes, again, that particular grade is a C, doing better. We didn't see as many D's and F's. So that average grade point is a C. You have 3 manholes that are kind of in the F range and 9 in that yellow, so you may want to focus your efforts on those 12. But we'll talk about that a little bit later in the presentation about costs and how we can potentially handle this. I want to point this out, the North Carolina Society of Civil Engineers, ASCE, they did a 2026 report card. They've been doing this for several times, and so they have given the infrastructure within North Carolina a grade D+. So you can see your piping system is tracking in line with most of the infrastructure within the state, and then your sanitary sewer manholes or structures is doing a little bit better than all the infrastructure in the state with the grade C. And again, I want to point out that this is just the Olmsted Village only. So we'll be back to talk about the rest of the infrastructure in the town. So not all bad news. Now let's talk about inflow and infiltration. So inflow and infiltration is the movement of either rainwater or groundwater into the sanitary sewer piping system. Inflow and infiltration is kind of bad words, no-nos in the sanitary sewer business, because that takes clean water to the wastewater treatment plant that has to be chemically cleaned up. And so in North Carolina, we do not have as some states have, a combined sewer system, which means the sanitary sewer system both takes rainwater and sanitary sewage to the treatment plant. Here in North Carolina, we only take sanitary sewage to the treatment plant. Stormwater goes into the storm drainage system, which then discharges directly to the nearest creek, stream, or above ground water feature. So where this becomes important, as was spoken about earlier in the presentation, is that because of the I&I problem, and so I'm going to show you some images of groundwater infiltration through the pipe, the town has paid additional money to Moore County for the processing of the town's treatment. And this inflow and infiltration is not billed to any of the customers individually. Everybody cumulatively in the system pays for this I&I with your overall water rates. So this is a segment of pipe between manhole 119 and 118. You got some fog, and you see the sheen on the fog, and that's at one of the pipe joints. You can kind of see it's a little bit offset. We have water coming in that particular joint. So again, it has a rating system F, because almost the only way to repair this is to go in, dig up the pipe, and fix the pipe. So that pipe needs to be replaced. This is between manhole 121 and 120. You can see this even more clearly and more evident. Again, here's a joint. You can actually see the water pouring into the piping system. And how do we know this is infiltration and inflow? Again, the water is clear. Wastewater, the water should not be clear. It should have a tint to it. Let's just call it that. It should not look like that. So you can see where 120 and 121 is located. Then again, in between 143 and 142, there's a rating C. Again, because the only thing that we have is really inflow. Again, this is coming from sanitary sewer lateral, which again is the customer's responsibility. So they may have, again, a breach or some type of joint that has come loose over time that needs to be repaired. So again, with this water intrusion, it becomes a major wear and tear issue, because again, eventually the pipe will not be able to convey the waste that it was initially designed to convey. And then between manhole 146 and 145, again, you can see we got a lot of fog, and then we have some, again, clear water that's indicative of groundwater flows. And you can see where that is located more to the west side of the Olmsted Village Shopping Center. So because of these cumulative conditions, you know, the pipe is unable to, again, convey the level of service that it needs to be able to convey the waste downstream. And then see here, again, we have clear water. So again, the pipe is taking in a lot of groundwater infiltration into the system for treatment. And that concludes that particular portion of the presentation with the assessment. So we talked about the condition, we talked about infiltration and inflows. Now let's talk about the capacity of the particular Olmsted Village line. Allow me to catch my breath a little.
Feel free to take a drink of water.
So this is the preliminary results of the entire town's wastewater collection system capacity. Again, we're still rounding out the remainder of the town's system. But as you can see, on average, the commercial flows, that is mostly Olmsted Village, is around 21,500 gallons per day. We estimate the residential to be around 400 gallons per day, so it's a very small fraction. Again, that is a very small fraction because, again, not every residential unit in the town is on town sewer. We still have a lot of residences that are still on a septic system. And then based on the billing from Moore County, we estimate at this current junction that the inflow and infiltration is somewhere around 15,770 gallons per day. That's a lot.
That's 8%.
Yeah, that is a lot. That number, based on the miles of piping within Olmsted Village, exceeds the state allowable maximum for I&I. And then, you know, looking at the graph, I know, at least for us, and I highlighted at the end, we see this drop in water usage. Again, what we've been in since about April, drought. So people have been conserving water, been encouraged to conserve water. So now we can see a dip in the water usage. Again, I&I does not change. That flow is constant. So you have been seeing a constant around 15,000 gallons per day into the system. And so then what does that look like? So from a overall capacity of the Lincoln Street pump station, this is kind of what that looks like. So the existing commercial customers is taking about 20% of that capacity. We estimate that the existing residential customers that are currently on town sewer is taking up about 11% of that capacity. And then again, good planning practice is because we know the wishes and thoughts of the residents of the town is to be connected to city sewer when their septic systems start to fail again. That's why a lot of the town's infrastructure was installed with state grants, because we had failing septic systems, and so we needed to provide waste services to your residents. So you got a grant that allowed you to put in this system. So we're gonna say we're gonna reserve 11% of that capacity to connect the remaining residents to this system, because again, when the systems fail, they need to be connected immediately. You don't have time to wait to go to the state and say, hey, we need to increase our capacity at our pump station so we can connect these additional residents on that are having problems with their septic system. And then we estimate that your inflow and infiltration is taking up about 14% of that particular capacity. And then the request that we have before us now with the two hotels, they're requesting, based on state required calculations, about 45,000 gallons per day, which will be about 41% of the pump station capacity, which is about double of your existing commercial customer. That's not alarming. I mean, that's usual. Hotels use a lot of water, so that's expected. That, again, all of this fits within the capacity of the pump station. So we don't have a problem with the pump station. We can accept that waste. Most of the problem, again, is with the piping, getting it from the developments over to the pump station. And so in doing our assessment, we also did some empirical calculations as well. And so we have discovered, or concluded rather, that the Olmsted Village sanitary sewer collection system, again, system as a whole, has the capacity to convey the waste that's currently being discharged, as well as the future demand, or the proposed demand from the hotels. It can be conveyed if the system was in great condition. On the other side of the coin, the sanitary sewer system does not reach enough velocity where the system is self-cleaning. And that's what we like sanitary sewer systems to be designed as, so they be self-cleaning. So you don't see some of the sediment that we saw at the bottom of the pipe and the collection of waste and other materials. What that does is it just cause additional maintenance burden on the town, meaning periodically you would have to send a piece of equipment down to kind of clean out and jet out the lines until you get enough volume to allow the system to be self-cleaning. And I can say that we did look at what would happen if the hotel volume is discharged into the system, and that additional flow does help some sections of the existing piping become self-cleaning, but it does not make all sections. So that's a positive. And then again, this is a picture, you see sediment at the bottom. So again, that is, again, proof that, you know, our empirical calculations are correct, that we are not seeing, you know, we're seeing buildup of sediment at the bottom of the pipe, because if this was self-cleaning, we wouldn't have evidence of that. All of that would have been pushed down to the pump station, and we would see evidence of that with the failures of the pump, because it's sucking up all this grit, eating up the impellers and things within the pump. So you would have constant pump burnouts a lot more frequently. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise that this is not making it all the way to the pump station. And then again, catch my breath. And again, here you kind of see through the water, the sediment build out. So the solids are starting to settle out of the waste stream, and again, not making it to the pump station for final disposal. The home run stretch. So kind of summary of findings. So here's a composite map of all of the deficiencies that we discovered during our AIA evaluation of the Olmsted Village sanitary sewer system. On the right is our evaluation. On the left was evaluation that was done by others that identified about 5 deficiencies. Again, I think the last count was like 30 or so deficiencies that we identified. At least each storm structure, so that's more than 30, because that's 33 structures. Almost each structure had something that needed to be done to it. So we came up with numerous deficiencies that needed to be addressed. So in summary, just looking at the manholes, about 64% of the sanitary sewer manholes, in good news, appear to be in generally good condition. 72% of the sanitary sewer manholes had various degree of groundwater infiltration. So at some level that probably should be dealt with. Again, 10% ring and covers need to be accessible. Ring and cover, 2% manholes need to be raised. So I'm not gonna read all of this. So in general, it's not doom and gloom. You got some good things, and then you have some bad things as well. But nothing too terribly bad that cannot be overcome. And then on your piping assets, 22% of the collection system had piping that had significant infiltration. So again, that's a big one. That's part of the 14%. So again, when we can reduce that 14% down to something manageable, let's say maybe like 1% or so, we can tighten it up. Again, that gives you more capacity at your pump station to allow for future development. Again, 65% of the piping had fog, fats, oils, and grease residue on the pipes, which again, some of the self-cleaning and then overall increased maintenance that the town will have to do. And then the big one, manhole 138 to 135 had that breach where the pipe was separated, broke, that needs to be complete. And then I think another thing that we discovered through our research, we could not find where legal access has been conveyed to the town to be able to officially perform maintenance on this particular line. So that would need to be resolved at some point in time so that, again, these repairs can take place. So high levels. Now let's move on to probable repair costs. So again, we do the rating system, again, to make being able to develop how you're gonna repair the system in the future, because again, nobody has a limited budget, unlimited money. So by doing a rating system, it allows us to prioritize what type of repairs and where you need to allocate your funding in dollars. So looking at your manhole replacement costs, if you were to replace or do repair and replacement work on everything that we identified, you're looking at just for your manholes about $110,000. If we take that and we prioritize and say, okay, let's fix and repair our worst places, our worst manholes. And that would be your F rating. You're looking at $32,000 to repair just your Fs. And then to repair your Ds, which is about 27% of your manholes, you're looking at $39,000. So again, those dollars from a typical town budget, that's manageable. And then you got your not your A's, your B's and your C's, you know, to do repair to make those a better condition, or move those from B's to A's would be $39,000. So again, in this particular case, it's probably beneficial to do the 110 because a lot of the manhole problems are related to water infiltration. And we're trying to get that I&I gallons per day down from 15 down to something more manageable, especially in line with the state's maximum rules and requirements. Now let's talk about the big dollar numbers. Now we're gonna look at the piping repairs. So, do I need to wait a minute? I hear a lot of Woo. I gave y'all a warning while I was thinking.
Glad we said that.
It says over now. So y'all are waiting. So to fix your F's, you're looking at about 1.2 million to fix the F's. And the F's are, if you look on the right-hand side of your screen, all of the items that are in red. And the reason for that heavy dollar amount is because the system is active. So now we have to do some type of bypass pumping around to allow the workers to get to it. Secondly, we have in some of these areas what we call improvements, meaning there's concrete, asphalt, and other things that have to be removed and put back. So that increases the cost. So you're looking at about 1.2 for that. And then your Ds, which were pretty much two legs of pipe, two segments of pipe, you're looking at about 57,000. And then to repair your Bs, you're looking at about $10,000. And most of the repair for your Bs, we believe that is providing true caps, because we think that there was a lot of surface laterals that were stubbed out for future development. What we mean by stubbed out is they were connected to the main and they were brought to a point, terminated, but it doesn't appear that they were properly terminated to keep water and soil from getting into the overall system. So that $10,000 is to go in at the end of those pipes and properly terminate those so that you don't get soil and water into the overall sanitary sewer system. So then you got a total repair and replacement cost of all of the identified problem areas of about $1.3 million. And then if we look at what the combined total to do the entire system, you're looking at about 1.4 million. And this is just on the Olmsted Village side of the system only. So now let's get to the recommendations. So we're rounding the corner. So the AIA recommendations for the Olmsted Village outfall is that the town implements and enforce a fall policy, which stands for fats, oils, and grease policy. Again, we want to try to prevent, that from getting into the system to begin with. So that would entail making sure your residential commercial customers have grease traps, and that those grease traps are properly maintained to keep this stuff from moving downstream. The second recommendation is that the town pursues necessary funding through their own enterprise fund, legislative earmarks, grants, loans, or a combination thereof to be able to fund these repairs. Again, these repairs are paramount because some of the deficiencies are taking capacity away from the individual system. And then third, that the Olmsted Village identified deficiencies are included in the overall capital improvements plan, so that a financial game plan is developed to how we can fund these particular repairs. And then last but not least, I would like to do some acknowledgements. I'd like to acknowledge the town council again. Thank you for the opportunity for allowing us to do this assessment and work on the 2 grants. And we have several more presentations like this to come when we do the other tasks associated with the grants. I would like to extend the thanks to Ms. Cole and Mr. Price with all their help with getting down the information that we need for the documents. And then I want to make sure we acknowledge NCBWI, again, the granting agency that, again, the town applied to and was able to get the funds for this particular work. So other than that, I'd like to, that concludes my presentation. And I guess I may open it up to town council for any questions or comments.
At this time, we want to hear from Dominique Cam for a summary. We'll be last. Save the best for last.
So, if you're paying attention, obviously there's going to be some discussions that will be had about development going forward, what can be done to developers that we know we're dealing with. We'll have more, I guess, detailed discussions about how we can kind of stem this. Also, town funding, how we're going to allocate the risks and resources. As far as the ownership issue, there's another attorney named Ted Edwards who's actively involved with determining that. I've been in conversation with that. He's unable to be here today. As you can see, there are a lot of different questions, and this kind of provides a framework as to where the problem areas are. You all can take a look as far as where your particular project is. I'm sure you've already looked at the map to kind of see, all right, we're here, we're there, where some of the areas are. As you have already been in contact with me, let me know if you need to know anything else, and we kind of arrange, I guess, a follow-up meeting to kind of address the specifics of this. But other than that, I don't have anything else to present. Thank you, Dr. Waller, for your presentation, and thank you, everybody, for coming by. To council, if you had any additional questions of Dr. Waller, I don't know if there are. I'll take a seat if there's nothing else from the council.
Thank you, Attorney Cam. Council, we have heard a lot tonight, and I know we need a few days to review and think about what our next steps will be. Do you all have any questions, comments, or concerns? Mayor Pro Tem Gaddy?
Well, I had a few for Dr. Waller. So I noticed you was speaking about one of the 4 manholes. So we pretty much came to the conclusion, something that Mr. Price, Ms. Cole, a lot of the town already was aware of, that when you speaking about this settlement, so for layman's term, we're talking about sand, correct? To a certain degree?
Yes, most of the soil in this area is a sandy material. So, and a lot of the stuff that we identified, in my opinion, are construction defects.
Okay.
So these should never, occur. They should have been corrected, during the construction process. They were not, and so now the town kind of has what they have because those deficiencies were not corrected at the time of installation. Other than the grease, oil, and fats, the buildup on the walls, again, that's somewhat expected, but that level of magnitude, again, is just indicative of the town not having, or enforcing at least, an oil grease policy.
So some of those repairs, like the crack, like the one that's severed,
Yeah,
that would allow excessive groundwater to penetrate, right?
that is correct.
Now, if all this settlement ends up down at the pump station with the motors, with that grit, is that be a problem? Future
Yes,
problem?
yes, long-term it would be a problem. So, again, the pumps are designed to take a little bit of grit, but that magnitude of grit would cause, more pump maintenance and more replacement of your pumps. So you have to replace your pumps more frequently. So because the system is not reaching its self-cleansing velocity, the sandy material is actually settling out of the water or the waste stream, and it's collecting at the bottom of the pipe. So it's not making it to the pump where it would cause the pump to burn out. So that's kind of been the blessing in disguise, is that, okay, the material is staying in the pipe and not getting over to the pump, which would then you would have to replace the pump more frequently. So again, what I understand about the maintenance records of the pump, I think you're replacing your pump around every 3, 4 years, maybe 5
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
which is,
Yes, that's correct.
yeah, so which is typical. I mean, again, you got to think about it. These pumps run 24/7, 365. They don't sleep, they don't get a break, they don't go on vacation. They work day in, day out. I think the pump timing is they cut on and off every 7 minutes. So they do that for 5 years.
All right. Well, I'm good with my question. Anything else? Okay, I have a little, little thing that's, this stuff we've noticed a long time, that we had a problem with this system. So for many nights, many days, Ms. Cole, Mr. Price and I have gone out and, we've 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, we've noticed the clear water. So this town and this board, particular board administration is very much aware of this problem. So I hope, with all this, which has been said, I hope the developers, any future developers, realize that this is a real problem, and that anybody out there that's in these higher positions, maybe Mr. McGinnis or people of that nature, will understand that this is very crucial for the town and it's very important for the hotels. Because as Mr. Waller expressed very, very well, that this is a very serious problem that the town needs to address. So, with that being said, I hope some of the people in these high places stop using your office against people in communities to advancement of developers. So, Taylortown have any problem with future development, but we have to do things on our own time, and we've been blessed. We've made our little deadline, and hopefully all together we can, with the hotels, and solve these problems, and we can move forward, and everybody will be happy. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Gaddy. Taylortown, we are really trying. Thank you, Mr. Gaddy. Taylortown, as a board, as a town, we are really trying to do the right thing for our residents and commercial sewer customers in Olmsted Village. All of us on the town council are lifelong residents of Taylortown, with the exception of Mayor Pro Tem Gaddy, who left at an earlier age and lived in Atlanta, Georgia, but returned home 8 years ago and has been serving on this board. Why wouldn't Senator McGinnis not want to know what we are learning about the condition of our sewer system before demanding us to give permits for folks to tap into a system that clearly needs repairs that we've all seen and heard tonight? It's definitely not Taylortown that appears to be irresponsible. We are doing our very best to correct any problems for current or future times. Our minds quickly revert back to Smoke, Hickory, the Hickory Inn, and other black communities who are still in Pinehurst's extra territory jurisdiction, such as Jackson Hamlet, which is now being called Pinehurst South, and Monroetown, which is now being called the Pinehurst Resorts Golf Course number 6. As an elected official and as a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ, it really grieves me very bad to see how quickly that we're easily, readily to place in God we trust on buildings and on our money. While at the same time, we're not keeping the commandment to love thy neighbor as you would love yourself, and not covet the neighbor's belongings or property crookedly and unconcernedly. There seems to be some who've spent a great deal of time trying to prevent Taylortown from finding out what was wrong with the service system, the sewer system in Olmsted Village. To know what's wrong with the system gives us as a town a chance to figure out how to repair it. I'd like some time to review these findings and recommendations. Hopefully, after doing so, when we meet again, that the people who understand it took the people who understand what it took to protect current and future users of the system will be ready, willing, and able to talk about solutions to the problems. Special thanks to Dr. Waller and Mr. Price. We are going to be okay, and we would like to be a part of the solution. We just don't want to be pushed around, knocked around, and ignored. Thank you.
That banner, say smoke in the old settlement, that's what they keep talking about when you hear say smoke, the old settlement, that's what made us where we are today. Thank you, Kareem. Get ready to read it. As I thank you, and I thank you, Ms. Parker, for bringing up Jackson, Hamlet, and Monroetown. Taylortown is not forgotten, Hickory Inn, or West Southern Pines. You know the history of Southern Pines, you know what happened. If you don't ask me after this. I think that many of us in the black communities around the country, we are searching for a way to make race relations better. It makes me think of Wilmington, North Carolina, what happened to them in 1898 when the KKK decided they had a right to slash and burn their way into taking over that city from its elected officials. When does it end? It's not just about race. When wealthier white people in Summerfield tried to keep 1,000 acres from developers, it was our own Senator Tom McGinnis that wrote the law that stripped them of their land to give to Gilbert County for a developer. This happened in 24 and 25. Not that long ago. Developers. So the threats made against our town from Senator McGinnis, they're real. What he will do for these Marriott developers at the Pinehurst, where he owns you Google it, say he has a home there. It's for real. He will make good on threats to DNX property, just as he made good on his threat to shut down Taylortown planning process that had only a 6-month moratorium. And 2 months remaining, he shut it down. After supporting a 5-year moratorium for Pinehurst to plan, when does it end? Each Moore County town has its own unique history. We love it that way. But we have people among us that believe Taylortown, because we're predominantly black municipality, we don't have no right to exist. That happened in 1987 when Bishop Brown was in They may come to Taylortown, they might come out to Taylortown today, and they might say, oh, that's okay, we can take it. It's just some black people that live over there, it's predominantly black municipality. And we don't have no right to exist anymore. They may come to Taylortown today, and some may say, that's okay, they just black. And we were here, what we heard at the General Assembly in 1987, when they told the people up there that blacks had no right to govern ourselves. What will you do when they come for your land? Land that's been in your family for years, but developers want it, unchecked and answering to no one but a senator who they say they pay for, give a lot to his campaign. What will you do when it's your land, your farm? People move here, they got money from the sale of their property in the northwest, wherever they come from. They won't wanna live there anymore, but too many of them, all they see here is land that they can overbuild on again. We don't all like that. Dr. Waller, thank you. And I'm saying that on behalf of the council when I say thank you for the work you've done to bring the facts about the commercial sewer system in Umstead and your recommendations. We always knew that once we got the facts, we would be able to fix the problems for now and later. Leaving it as it is was not the welcome mat that we wanted to extend to developers. Fixing these problems, not just in the Umstead Commercial District, but throughout our town. That's the welcome that we want to give developers and for our town future. And as Bishop Brown said, no weapon.
That's it.
And if you know what the rest of it is. Thank you.
Well, we've been working on this problem for a long time. When you're elected official, you don't pretend to know everything. You rely on the expertise of lawyers, accountants, engineers, to make sure you're making the best decision. We knew our paid experts were not helping us much as they were the developers at that time. Our town was used for access to grants to help more of the commercial developers than the residents who are still using septic tanks, but promised city sewers when we got the USDA grant and loan package in 2021. We got questions that must be answered about the same, so that the same mistakes would not be made again. The town paid for a lot of maintenance on this system over the years, and I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around the reason a senator or anyone else would want to help conceal these sewer infrastructure problems from the council, the current developers, business, and the general public period. I'm looking forward to getting more information and having the next meeting as soon as possible.
Okay, well, with that said, y'all check out your phones, check your calendars, and see what you have available for next week. Our next town council meeting is August the 25th at 6 p.m. However, we need a meeting before that meeting.
What day you come?
Whatever day good for y'all. Monday, Tuesday, and then Attorney Cam, whatever his schedule will allow. Between the 17th and the 20th. say you about your schedule next week? You prefer morning, evening,
It'll have to be virtual for next week.
virtual? Okay. So anytime we do what's best for you.
We said the 17th, Monday.
Yeah, we can do that too. Be all right?
Can we just check your availability, and then check your availability, and then we can work with Attorney Cam and Akila on the master calendar to see where we are,
Okay.
and see that we. So that was something we're virtual.
Alright. So at this time, I'd like to thank you all for coming. Like I said, our next town council meeting will be August 25th, 2026 at 6 p.m. And when we make that next meeting for next week, we will let you know. So now I seek a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussions? Thank you, planning board for coming, historical committee for coming, and community development advisory board, Dr. Waller, and DC Creative Media. All of you all that joined us online, YouTube, Zoom, thank you. Ms. Winder, call the roll, please.
Mayor Cotton,
Yes?
Mayor Pro Tem Gaddy,
Yes.
Councilwoman Moody,
Yes.
Councilwoman Parker,
Yes.
Councilman Brown.
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned.